Inside Foos presents FoosTalk Live.
I am your father, and his father before him.
My father's too distracted by his bald spot to do anything.
Father, what's wrong with you?
Geniuses like us are never understood by their fathers, Flint.
He's even better than Dad.
Father?
Didn't know you had a famous father, did you?
Join me, and together we can rule the galaxy as father and son.
You're the best evil son an evil dad could ever ask for.
Because nobody messes with your dad.
I'll go on record as saying I'm a superior father to any of those fools. If this was a competition, it wouldn't even be close, man. Wouldn't even be close.
I see. Well, I think we just got our lead in for the show. Let's put it that way. It's FoosTalk Live.
You talking to me?
Compelling and lively banter.
Are you going to talk to us?
Talking foosball.
Foosball was how I measured my value as a man. You took that away.
Players and fans, promoters and pros. Unedited and raw.
Talk.
Living in the moment.
We have a lot of important things to talk about.
All while practicing social distancing.
Cool, we'll talk. No big whoop.
Let's get this thing started. FoosTalk Live. Brought to you in part by InsideFoos.com. Offering monthly subscriptions with access to some of the most exciting matches ever recorded, plus live tournaments, pre- and post-show analysis, interviews, and original programming. Sign up now at InsideFoos.com. Also brought to you by ProtectoFlex, the world's premier foosball safety accessory. Go to Protecto-Flex.com. Brought to you by Rod Luck. Practice more, reach less. The best practice tool in foosball. Visit rod-luck.com. And brought to you by 518 Prints, one of the best printers of promotional items and foosball apparel. Visit 518prints.com today. Also brought to you by Foosballers The Movie. This Joe Hesslinger foosball documentary is now available as a worldwide download at foosballersthemovie.com. Also brought to you by the USTSO, helping to usher in a new era of competitive foosball. Become a member at usafoosball.com. And brought to you by Foosball Clubs USA, promoting foosball through school systems all over the United States. Visit foosballclubsusa.com and make a donation today. Yes, it's FoosTalk Live. I'm Tom Robinson. This is episode number 114. It's not live this time, but pre-recorded because we want to give everybody on the staff here, everybody on the crew, time to celebrate Father's Day. And we hope that you are having a great Father's Day, remembering Dad or being a dad or, thinking about Dad and, of course, foosball at the same time. And naturally, when it comes to talking about foosball, especially when it comes to dads, we do need to talk to the greatest play-by-play announcer of all time, the father of foosball play-by-play. That would be Jim Stevens. Welcome, Jim.
Yeah, hi, Tom, and it's great to be with you again, even though we're recorded on a Sunday evening, episode number 114, and you mentioned me being the father of foosball play-by-play. I guess you could say that it's kind of my baby, isn't it?
It is indeed.
And we did sort of create it from scratch, as we have done with our children as well. And so, but really, really great to be able to celebrate the fact that that fathers are certainly prominent in foosball. Second-generation players, certainly a big thing in foosball, especially at the very top end, right?
Oh, sure.
So it's great to be appreciated for being a father. And of course, it came to me relatively late in life. Mm-hmm. But it's been literally the best now almost 11 years of my life.
Oh,
sure.
Really? Well, that's great to hear. And they say, as in the vernacular, it's never too late. Although I'm 63, so I probably don't have much hope in that regard. But anyway, now just a quick overview. Now, who can you think of off the top of your head, or the most prominent, let's say, father-son or father-daughter figures within the professional foosball arena?
Well, obviously, Terry Rue and Keisha, of course, but Terry and Sully, I think, would be the most prominent. I mean, we're looking at two players, both of whom potentially could be in the Hall of Fame someday. So I think that would probably be the most prominent, or at least when you're looking at the success of the father and the success of the daughter or son, I think that has to be at the top of the list.
Sure.
Those two for sure.
The royal family of foosball, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny, being a father, and especially an older father, it keeps you young, but it also kind of makes you old at the same time, oftentimes, because it can be a lot of work. Although now with my kids being 10 and 8, and Ari will be 11 here in a couple of months, certainly things are getting easier as they are now at those ages. But again, it's been so special to be a part of fatherhood.
Yeah.
Both of my kids enjoy playing foosball, and so certainly, and even more and more over the last 10, 20 years, we're seeing second generation players,
right?
Sons and daughters of foosball players, really rising to the top. If you look at the best players in the world, I think almost to a man and woman at this stage, they are second generation players.
So Bud and Tony Sprademan come to mind. There's, of course,
Mary and Ryan Moore, of course, and
right.
Billy Pappas's parents were foosball players. His mom and his stepdad, who introduced him to the game. Robert Atha, the great British player. Frederick Collignon, the greatest player of all time. All of them had foosball playing parents.
Wow, that's amazing, and it is definitely something that influences from generation to generation. I know, chatting with Adam Gilson and his dad, of course, who was heavily involved in the TS world way back when, and now we can see what's happened for Adam as a result. So let's trace your steps when it comes to the early days of playing foosball. What were your parents' impressions of the game? How did they treat you in that regard? What did they think of it?
I'm actually a product of a single. My mom was a single parent raising my sister and I.
Oh, gotcha.
So I never really had the influences of a father. Yeah,
okay.
Which. I think me waiting until I was older to become a father, probably a good thing, because I didn't really have an example early in life. I've had some since then.
Right.
And so, but early on, my mother, of course, by that time, I think I started playing when I was 17, 18 years old. I was kind of already out of the house. And so, but she seemed to enjoy it, and she certainly enjoys it these days. Whenever we have a live stream, she watches and really appreciates, enjoys what we do. And so my mom does, but never really had the influences of a father.
So within the professional sport of foosball, was there a mentor or father figure that you can think of that really helped to influence you in your game?
Well, it actually came a little later on, I think, and coincidentally, his nickname is Old Dad. We're talking about Steve Murray, certainly, who was a huge influence on my career. Early on, the man really that is responsible for bringing me and Inside Foos to the Pro Tour now almost 30 years ago, if you can believe that.
Yeah.
In fact, I was thinking about it the other day. This is my 30th year out on tour.
Wow.
First year was 1993, and now here in 2022, this is year 30 of commentating foosball and covering the sport of professional table soccer as we have all around the world.
Sure.
But I think if I'm going to trace an influence, certainly it'd be Old Dad, of course, coincidentally. And happy Father's Day to Steve Murray.
Yes, absolutely. I love that. Steve has definitely got the patriarchal thing going on, right? He lords over
so many players, not only in his area, but on the Pro Tour as well. But a well-deserved nickname for sure.
Oh, no question. So let's talk about the nurturing of your child in the very early years, 1993. Of course, the very first time that you went out and did some play-by-play. And, of course, Steve was helping you along the way. Just how did things change for you as you noticed this child grow?
Well, certainly life changed, no question about it. I went from basically being a foosball player to moving to the other side of the microphone, the camera, and commentating. And really, there were no guidebooks for this. As a parent, you can ask other people, you can read books, you can watch shows to kind of learn about good parenting. But in this case, there wasn't a lot. It had never been done before, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, televising sports had been done, so I stole a little bit of that from what I saw on television, and I'm a huge sports fan.
Okay.
But I kind of had to create the guidebook for doing this early on, and a lot of that is trial and error, right?
Yeah.
And certainly it was vitally important. I mean, I was all in on this early on, and it was something that I'd wake up in the morning and start thinking about. What I can do to improve the product, what I would do to improve my commentary in particular, and so it was a lot like raising a baby,
right?
And it cried a lot, and it tossed and turned, and it was it was a time when, again, a lot of trial and error. And I think we got a lot of it right, and certainly began to build that foundation to what eventually became of Inside Foos.
I think that a lot of new parents, I hear them say that they didn't expect they would lose so much sleep. Were you losing sleep over your
well,
your
of course,
child?
anybody who's ever been to a foosball tournament knows that sleep is a premium. You're lucky if you get 6 hours, 6 hours in a night because of how late these things can go and how early they begin oftentimes. And so I think from that perspective, yes. Other than that, no, I didn't lose a lot of sleep over it. We would spend time during the week in between events, spending a little time planning ahead or doing post work, on these things. But for the most part, the only sleep I kind of lost was at tournaments when, the late days and early mornings.
It's I've found that out recently myself. It's challenging, and a lot of people end up suffering, maybe catching a head cold or some kind of flu right after the matches are over, and you kind of have to crash.
Sure.
But
I can't say this though. I've always kind of referred to foosball as my martial art, right?
Yes,
it's the thing that probably has taught me more than anything else in my life, right? About team play, about being prepared, about performing under pressure, all of these things. Stamina, of course, for foosball tournaments.
It's huge.
But it taught me a lot. It taught me about basically how I live my life now. It's live in the moment, be here now, trust what will happen. Don't worry about what could happen or what did happen. You're just here now. You take care of business in the moment and the rest takes care of itself. And I sort of learned that from foosball, certainly as my quote unquote martial art. And I certainly have applied it to my life. And hopefully, I'm teaching that to my kids as well. Team play, something I think is so important. And the ability to be in the moment and trust yourself. Express your creativity. And then strive for excellence. You say practice makes perfect. Well, we know that's not really true. You can't be perfect, but practice can certainly make excellence.
Oh, sure. And patience is the other thing. Patience
for sure.
and waiting and knowing how to time yourself properly and all these things that come into general life as well. So, okay, since we've already broached the subject, so let's talk about, of course, you met Amy Eckhart Stevens, and then, of course, the idea of coming into real fatherhood, as in the flesh and blood type. What happened? I know you've mentioned this story before, but what happened the first time you became a dad? Because I know it's happened twice. What happened to you, and what changed in your life?
Well, it starts before the baby is actually born, of course.
Yes.
It starts the day you find out that she's pregnant. And, of course, I never would have met Amy without foosball. So foosball's been incredibly important. I never would have had these two children without foosball. Amy and I met at the 2008 U.S. Open when she won an event and came up, and she actually hit the winning shot at 4-4 last game.
Wow.
To win the event, and that allowed her then or encouraged her then to come up and purchase the videos, which is how we met. We've often referred to that shot as the biggest shot of her career, undoubtedly, because if she doesn't score that, these beautiful children don't exist.
Right.
But it certainly changes your life, and we were prepared for it. This is something we decided we wanted. A lot of it, there is no script, much like starting Inside Foods. You just deal with things. There's advice and influences, but things don't always go as planned. What's the famous saying? Man plans and God laughs.
Right.
And so there was a lot of that. I mean, it was a lot of work. It's not easy. Taking care of a pregnant wife. It isn't. And but we knew what was coming and how amazing that was going to be, and it certainly was. And it was so special to be able to participate and be part of the birth of my daughter, Ari.
Right.
Now almost 11 years ago. And it was very special. And of course, followed a little over 2.5 years later by my son, Kian. And both of them are just beautiful young children.
Yeah.
And fatherhood means so much to me. It is the number one thing in my life, for sure.
And every week on FoosTalk Live, we get to hear Ari's voice finishing off the show. We'll see you, Foos, in which I think I just, to me, that makes it all worthwhile.
It does. It brings such a smile to my face, and she loves the fact that she's part of this, right?
Right.
And she says, I'm famous in the foosball world for saying that at the end of the show. But it's great, and every time I can't wait to hear that at the end of every show.
Right.
Sure.
So now, when it comes to being a dad and playing foosball, what do you do around the house when it comes to? I know you have a table, so how do the kids react to that? Do they look forward to playing?
Oh, they do. Yeah, they love it. They'll play singles, and both of them have pretty good ball control.
Okay.
I mean, there's when they're at this age, there's so much in their lives, and we try to keep them busy, and especially during the summer, they're going to different camps, and doing different things, playing baseball. My daughter playing softball. Depending on the season, they're going to be playing that sport. They both played basketball as well during basketball season.
Oh, wow.
But when we can, we certainly jump on the table. We'll play some mixed doubles, or the boys against the girls, or they'll play singles. And my son actually loves to stand at the end of the table, and as he says, he's a foosball pronouncer.
Oh,
and I'm
nice.
not correcting him on that. It's but he'll stand there and do the play-by-play when Amy and I are playing. And no, they love foosball. They know how important it is to not only me but to Amy as well.
Yeah.
And they are certainly foosball children who I'm sure will as they grow become pretty good foosball players. Whether they go out on tour and become pro players, who knows, right?
Right.
But they are certainly going to be a part of their life, I think, forever.
Have they had a chance to experience the tournament atmosphere? Have they been to a tournament?
They have. In fact, early on, Ari, I remember we at St. Louis Nationals, probably she was less than a year old. We took her there and wheeled her around in Las Vegas as well, and in the carriage and in the stroller. And they both have been to tournaments. Ari's also been to the Texas State Championships. They've both been to Las Vegas. Ari has been to the World Championships. I think Ari has been to 4 or 5 major events.
Oh, wow.
Colorado State, they were there last year.
Mm-hmm.
And they love it. And everybody really embraces them, of course. They know who they are. They're two of the more famous kids in foosball, probably, even if they aren't necessarily tour players. And so they do enjoy the experience. Now, I have them out of that room probably by about 8:00 at night.
Of
right?
course, yeah.
It's not always, and I think that's something as we move forward in the sport, and something certainly with the influence of the great John O'Brien, is that we do need to make sure that we make these events family friendly, and certainly when you travel internationally, it's more of that. You do see that there's more of a focus on junior play, as there will be at the World Cup, etc. But I think moving forward, it's something we really need to embrace, especially as we see the numbers of young players continuing to increase.
No question. What would you hope for both of your children when it comes to the future? I mean, as a dad, what is your fondest hope when it comes to the two of them and their life?
Well, I want them to find things they love, things that express their creativity, and then figure out a way to make a living at it, right?
Right.
Whatever that takes. But I want them to love what they do. I've been fortunate enough for now almost 3 decades to have been working at something I love to do.
Yes.
Right. And finding a way to scratch out a living at it and survive, well into the 2020s. And so I hope that they're able to find something they love, they enjoy, that they can put all their energies into, their creativity, something that's satisfying for them. And oftentimes when you do that, you will find a way to make that your career.
Yes.
And so that's my hope for them. Kian is the scientist, Ari is the artist.
Oh, really?
They both have aspects of the other, in their personalities. They both enjoy sports. My son Kian is a huge baseball fan, Dodger fan, of course.
Of course.
Loves to play. And he's a pretty good player at 8 years old now. He's been playing a couple of years.
Wow.
He's a pretty good player.
Does he like to pitch, what's his position?
He's a catcher and an outfielder.
Oh, okay.
He'll also play some second base. At this stage, it's still coach pitch. And it's, they move him around a little bit, but he loves to play. But he's also talked about, we watch a lot of Dodger games. We listen to the commentary on there. He knows I'm a commentator. He's also talked about maybe someday being a baseball commentator.
I love that. And the passion starts early in life, right? I mean, the best foosball players in the world are those who start when they're in their grade school years. It's been proven over and over again, it seems.
Yeah.
And that could be the same for sports commentating, for sure.
Yeah, I think almost anything, right? These formative years early on that are so important, influential on the rest of their lives. We talked about, as we come around full circle, to these second generation players, the reason that the greatest players in the world, and almost to a man and woman at this stage, are second generation players, is because they started early, in grade school, sometimes even before. I've got a video of Sullivan Rue playing at the World Championships when she was 2. And so, and of course, getting the right kind of influences early on, being able to do the fundamentals, play the game the right way at the age of 4, 5, 6, 7. That's only going to lead to greatness, and a level of greatness that you really can't achieve any other way. It's almost impossible, I think, for someone to start maybe after the age of 13 or 14 or 15 even, and reach a level that we've seen from Pappas and Collignon and Spredeman and more.
And someday Sam DeJean, whose dad was also very instrumental in his development now. Which that's true. These are exciting times to see, and how dads have a big influence in not only foosball, but of course in people's lives. But so I'm very curious what when it comes to your other child and play-by-play for foosball. Naturally, you have aspirations for that. What is your hope once? Let's say once all is said and done for Jim Stevens, and we hope that's several decades down the line here. But what is your hope for the legacy that you're leaving?
Well, I think again, much like a good father, you want to have an influence on people. You know, you want to leave them with something. You know, you want them to respect you. You want them to appreciate what you've done. And hopefully it's been from a point of view and a perspective of giving. You know, and I've always looked at it that way. It isn't as if I've made an incredible living being a foosball commentator. I do it because I love the sport. I love the art of commentary. But I also understand that what I do over the years has been important to a lot of people. And I hear it. I feel greatly appreciated by the foosball public. And certainly, hopefully, they can always look back. And of course, there's plenty to still watch, right? My legacy is on video.
Yes.
And hopefully we've left them feeling good, feeling positive, and anything that I have done for the sport hopefully has helped to push it forward to make it better for everyone.
Well, it's amazing that you're able to share the kind of passion you have for the sport, and what a fortuitous thing that you do. Being able to talk about it, being able to share it with other people and get other people excited. And I still recall this early on with Foosball Radio, talking to Tony Spredeman at Pennsylvania State and asking him, what were your early aspirations in foosball? What were your plans? And he said, well, the first thing, I wanted to get on a video commentated by Jim Stevens. That was what he was, and then he goes, well, I had that happen, but I lost. So then I wanted to win while Jim was commentating my match. So
that's awesome. And Tony has told me that as well. And certainly we all remember Tony literally from when he was 14, 15 years old, first coming up, and to know that he puts what I do in that sort of frame. It really makes me feel good, and Tony, of course, to this day, one of my great foosball friends, and
a friend to everyone who approaches Tony, which is really great. What a great ambassador.
Yeah, and we got to give old Bud some credit there, I suppose, as well, right?
I think so.
Taking him into those bars when he was 15, and getting him involved with the sport, and Bud is a great guy, no question about it, and so again, it's so important to have someone like that, and
really enjoyed
that can kind of lead you through life. Yep.
Really enjoyed watching them. It was very entertaining when they were playing together at the Beachtown Beatdown back in February, and hopefully when the next edition comes up, what is it, in July, we may see them again. Do the same thing, Bud and
wouldn't doubt
Tony.
it. I would hope so.
Yeah.
It is a lot of fun to watch them.
Yeah. So Jim, anything else you want to share with the FoosTalk Live audience about being a father or celebrating Father's Day? By the way, what are you personally doing today for the celebration?
Well, got up. My kids had some gifts ready for me on the table. I got a new book and some nice Hawaiian coffee, and we're gonna. Had a nice breakfast. We're going to go see the new Jurassic World movie here in a little bit.
Nice.
Going to grill if the rain lets up. It's actually been raining here for the first time in 6 months.
Really?
We've had quite a bit of rain the last few days. But I'm going to go out in the backyard, and I have a couple of steaks and a nice big ahi steak for me.
Ooh.
That we're gonna grill up for dinner, and then maybe watch another movie here at home before the kids go to bed, and then they're up early tomorrow to go to this week's camp.
Oh, very nice.
So,
very nice.
but it's just, again, there's been so many great fathers in foosball, and we see it even more and more these days with these young kids out on tour,
right?
And how much of an influence their dads have been. And so I just want to say, Happy Father's Day to all of you out there listening.
Yes.
Have a great day. Keep up the great work with your kids, and all you fathers, we'll see you foosing.
Yeah. Well, it's Father's Day on FoosTalk Live. We appreciate you tuning in, hoping you're having a great day with Dad, or perhaps you are a dad, or you're remembering your dad. But today's Dad's Day, and we're honoring dads on FoosTalk Live. Now, it just so happens that 4 of the team members here on FoosTalk Live are dads. Dads who happen to play foosball. And right now, I'd really like to take some time out to talk to one of our better dads in the group, if you'll pardon me saying this. But Adam Gilson from Ventura, California is with us. Adam, welcome, Dad.
Well, thank you for having me. I don't know about better dad, but definitely a dad by definition. That's me.
I have to lead this off by saying that the other day you posted a picture of your son during his graduation from pre-K to kindergarten. And I showed the pictures to my wife, and she was beside herself as to how adorable your son Avery is.
Yeah.
So what's that like when you watch your son graduate?
Well, it was interesting. It was an emotional moment, which I wasn't expecting. He's in pre-K, and they call it promoting. He's promoting to kindergarten, because he was born in that weird time frame where between September and November, so they put them in pre-K basically,
right?
I was prepared for the kind of the whole emotional onslaught of time's progressing. Oh, he's getting older. It's this and that and the other thing. Because that happens. I mean, that happens from day one. Like, when kids, when they're born, like every single week is a year, literally, like every single week is a year, like the progression that happens. And then, so you're kind of used to that. It was interesting to me in that moment, because it was the teacher that actually made me really tear up, because I love education. I've been in education for a long time, and that's my I love teaching, but she that age group is hard to deal with. I would never teach that age group, and she was so good with all of them. Yeah, she helped so much with Avery's development in the last year, and it's been hard because he is a very bright kid and a very stubborn child, and I think you can say that with pretty much any toddler.
Sure.
And it's been hard, and so I don't know, because there's a lot of times where like I don't know what to do with him. And anybody that's listening to me and shooting the shot or anything like that know that sometimes, like, it's hard for me not to, I guess, project onto him the things that I'm worried about, I guess. But the teacher's been Miss Bernardo, that's her name, which is really, really amazing. And she did this thing at the end, like they don't generally have a promotion ceremony, but they did it. She set the whole thing up, and like all the parents were there. It was amazing. All the parents that showed up, all the family members, they were all dressed to the nines. It was just amazing. For a promotion, and they all came out, and I'm telling you, as somebody that has been in education and somebody that knows my son, by the time that we were done with the little like pizza like lunch thing, it was time for the graduation part, and she had them all come out of the classroom with their graduation hats on. They came out in a perfect line, and they all stood in line perfectly for 10 minutes as she gave them all their diplomas, and then they all sat down for another 20 minutes as she did the whole thing, and then she read them a story, and she read them Dr. Seuss's The Places You'll Go.
Really?
And and it's just so, I guess that was like the inspiration for her to teach, was that, and it was fine, and I was like I thought it was great. Every single parent and all the adults and everybody that was there were just like stock still listening to her as she read it.
Love it.
And the same thing with all the kids. And then like at the very end, I'm going to tear up here thinking about it, because at the very end, the Seuss, is saying, they're wrapping it up, but she wraps it up by saying every student's name.
Okay.
So she's saying all their kids' names that she has: Sebastian, Avery, this, that, and she just starts sobbing.
Oh,
and it was just like, I mean, I totally get it. Like, she's ending that journey with them in that moment in that lifetime, and and I'm talking a lot about this maybe because it's just hard for me to think about it in my own self. You know what I mean? Like, this is her moment, and it's easier for me to think about her moment because I can relate to a teacher. But for me, I guess it's always this life, this love, this thing that we have with our kids is a series of these moments, and it's just going to be one moment after another and after another. And especially now that we're all connected with Facebook, like I've been seeing a lot of people now, on social media, all their kids like graduating high school, going on to college, and I can't even fathom that.
Oh, so. It's astounding, right? I have a younger sister who's her youngest son who just graduated college. Back in the early part of May. She couldn't. She was beside herself. It's like, this is my last kid.
Wow.
Going through the system, and now he's an adult too.
Right.
That's got to be difficult to face that.
No, it has to be. I mean, it has to be, right? It's like if you're looking in your candy drawer and it's your last almond joy. And it's not even, what I mean? I'm being silly, but it's the same thing. It's like, I can't fathom that. Like it's really hard for me to even contemplate that.
Right. Well, I mean, before you know it, Avery's going to be begging you for the car keys. I have no doubt.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we'll see how that works out. If he
how
wants
it
to
goes.
drive a Yaris to his prom, then that's fine.
So,
that's on him.
Yeah. So, if I were to say to you 10 years ago, if we knew each other 10 years ago,
sure.
and I projected into the future and said, Adam, you're going to be a dad, what would you have said to me at that point 10 years ago?
I told you to go F yourself and quit hogging all the weed and whatever else you're doing, and quit smoking Mary Janes and stuff.
I love it.
Let's see, 10 years ago was 2012. I was still in the heights of dealing with, I was still dealing with anxiety and depression and not really knowing that's what was going on. Right. And I had just started that relationship then with Tara, my wife, now. But at the time, like, it was just like, so 2012 was, let's see, my wife my then girlfriend had just bought her house.
Okay.
The house that we live in now.
Okay.
And I remember, because it's in downtown. I live in Ventura, California, and it's like a 5-minute walk from downtown Ventura, where all the bars are and everything.
Oh, that's great.
And I remember just coming over one night when she first moved in and going downtown with her, and I'm still like party animal mode. And the last thing I remember was just puking, in her living room.
Oh my God! In her living room?
Yeah, just cheap tequila pukes, and it's just so fascinating. So that's why I would have said quit smoking the horse SH, because it wouldn't have. I couldn't have fathomed it at that time.
That's amazing.
Let alone being married or anything else that's happening these days.
Truly, this was a lot, not just a life altering event, but like an historic event. When your son was born, how did life change when that happened?
Well, it's interesting. It's one of those things that, and I'll tell you that a lot of prospective parents, myself included, would go through piles of books and podcasts and videos and all this other kind of stuff to try to get a concept of what it is that's going to happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have the child rearing, this changing diapers, this, that, and the other thing, behavioral stuff. But what nobody tells you is how the lack of sleep is going to destroy you.
Right?
Like I mean, it is wild. It is, of all the things that I didn't know were going to happen, the thing that was the most alarming and most difficult to deal with was the lack of sleep. Yeah, and we had no idea. Like and this is the other thing. Like I am an introvert. Like I am not. It is very difficult. I love being around people. I love humans. I love being with people. But there's a limit. We all have limits, right?
Yes.
you might not know it. Like anybody that might be listening to this has seen me in public, like, but at foosball tournaments, it's like, I'm talkative, blah, blah, blah. But no, it's, I have to have my own space, my own downtime and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I'm an introvert, but my wife is like an introvert's introvert, even more than me.
Wow.
And I didn't, and like very much so. And I didn't, neither one of us really realized the impact of what that would do when you basically had a frat boy living with you for 18 years.
Yeah.
Because like, so kids are, it's like, they're just nonstop go. And Avery, like he will, he now he's 5.5 years old, and still he'll be like, Mom, where are you? Dad, where are you? And I'm like, God damn it, I'm in the bathroom. Just leave me alone.
A little quality time, kid. That's what I'm looking for.
And I get it. Right. And I get it. Like, he's seeking boundaries or whatever, and that's fine. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, and to anybody, like, I'm not judging him. He's a kid. They need what they need. They need the boundaries, and that's not the problem. The problem is, at least I know now in hindsight, that I did not have that. I don't know, that deep well of whatever the hell that is that you need to deal with that.
Mm-hmm. And it's so you have to change your strategy. Something that might have worked in your life in the past is no longer valid, because
100%.
Yeah.
And won't be for a very, very, very long time.
It's all relative, though, Adam. It's all relative.
Yes.
No. So now, when it comes to foosball, and of course, you've been addicted to foosball since your days with your dad.
Sure.
How do you think that might affect your son?
I don't know. That's a really good question. I don't know. Tom, I think about this a lot, and it's hard, like, because so Avery's 5.5, and there's lots of time, but we have nothing in common. There's nothing that I like to do that he likes to do, and vice versa. I know he's a kid, and I'm 40, so it's like, what do you expect? There's not going to be like intersections. But I mean, I remember as a kid, like, liking things that my parents like to do. I just had a general interest, but Avery just, like, could not care. Like, I mean, if I was, if I had a jellyfish sucking my lifeblood out of my brain, he probably wouldn't call the whoever you need to call when a jellyfish is doing that to you.
Right. He'd say,
I know that's a very specific thing, but I mean, but my point is like, he's just not, it's just, we're not simpatico in that way. And I'm sure that'll change over time, but
sure.
But I guess what I'm saying is that, like, I would love to have a foosball table and him play foosball.
Yeah.
But that kind of stuff, like sports and things like that, foosball is not like a sport in that regard, but I still think it's a sport on a certain level.
Oh, it is. Oh, no question about it. I mean, it's just a different field is all.
Sure. I don't know if he would. I don't know how interested he'd be in it. Like, well, I would love to. Let me rephrase. Let me rephrase this. Okay, I know. Let me say it this way. And we've talked about this on FoosTalk Live. Like, my memories of foosball are so deeply tied with my memories of family.
Yes.
That they're the same thing. Foosball and family are interrelated for me. I remember those smoky afternoons and weekends where we'd have barbecues and people come over and we'd play in foosball, and there'd be barbecue into the evening, and I'd be playing Falco and U2 and all that.
Right.
On that, and
the 80s.
And that's the 80s, right? The 80s and 90s. And our crappy brown top table with the caulk covering up some of the floor, and most of it, all the men duct taped, right? Like,
love it.
Those memories will persist in my life forever.
Yeah.
And I don't want, those couldn't be, Avery's memories, because it's just a completely different situation.
Oh, sure.
So I don't know. I guess, Tom, to answer your question, is I don't have an answer, because I don't know. Like, I would love it to be one thing, but it's not that. It's just whatever it is. If I have a table, if I ever get the money together to get a table here, I would love that. I'm sure he would play it. We do it.
Yeah, it's a bonding things that dads and kids do, dads and sons and daughters do to certainly get closer. Would you say that you got your sense of humor from your dad's side?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think, I would say that from my mom, I got my love of people and food and entertaining and being with people.
Okay.
And from my dad, I think that the ability to talk shit Came from me.
Hey, man, that's the place to learn it, right?
Now you got to learn it somewhere.
Oh, I love it. That is awesome. Yeah, no, and I crack up when I think about that story you told about, your dad challenging you to,
Oh,
a
yeah.
baseball game, right?
Yeah, I still have that. That was printed on that. It was printed on that paper, that has like the holes on the side because it's got the roller going through it. Back like yeah.
I'd like you to tell that story yet again because maybe some people here at FoosTalk Live haven't heard that, but it's just hilarious, that moment with your dad on the foosball table. Can you tell that again?
Oh yeah. We were. I was just getting better, and it got to the point where he was basically challenging me. Because we were talking smack, as it were. But when you're that age, mid-teens, early teens, like my physical ability was just starting to come up to my mental ability, I guess. And so he was always he would just go into these other gears with me to challenge me on the table to make sure that I was
ready.
I don't want to say tournament ready because I don't think he ever wanted me to go to tournaments. I don't think it was ever his thing for me. Because he grew up on the business side of it, like back in the 70s, tournament soccer.
Right.
So I don't think that, and I know he saw what it did to the players back then. I mean, I actually, it's fascinating, Tom, when we think about it. Like, we have been painting a really good picture this last year of what happened to the players in tournament soccer after the tour fell apart.
Yes.
And in hindsight, I'm beginning to think that's one of the concerns my dad had outside of, the rampant drug use and all that other kind of things that was going on. But anyways, but anyways, bottom line, we grew up in a household where playing cards, playing Risk, playing Monopoly, it was no holds barred, and you were gonna get, you were gonna get smack talk, right?
Love it.
And so he sent me he printed out this invitation for a singles grudge match, and it was Fast Terry Gilson because that was his
Fast Terry Gilson
back in the that was his nickname back then, versus Adam Weekback Gilson.
Oh God,
13-year-old son.
Nice.
And,
okay.
And I could grab it, but it would take me a minute. I don't want to do that. But I still have the challenge here printed out, and we're playing, and things are getting just kind of frenetic, and what did he say to me? He said it was game ball, and he had the possession. He was going to shoot a pole kick, and I think he said that I was adopted, or he said something about you're adopted, or and then he did a double loopy dink while going, just to mess with my head. And when that happens, you circle the ball 1,000 times and it still goes in.
He did a dink on you. That's great.
He did a dink, of course. Yeah, and that's worse than smack talk, in my opinion.
This can be a bit humiliating, right?
It is, but I'll tell you what, though, you get forged in those kind of fires when you're a kid, Tom. Nothing bothers you.
But it sounds like your dad was just saying, you know what, kid, this is it, right?
Oh no, he wasn't doing that. It was just,
no,
but it was very apparent even before, because that was the mid '90s, I think. So it preceded before I even thought about playing.
Right.
That wasn't until the second father figure I had in my life, Jack Graham, showed up.
Oh.
And he was the one that said, that by the mid to late '90s, he was the one that said, "Hey, do you want to start playing?"
Really?
Yeah.
So Jack Graham, was he someone you were related to, or just a good friend? Or?
No, he was my godfather, and he was the guy that sneaking. He was the guy. He passed away a couple years ago, but he was the guy back in the mid '70s, early '70s. Played a lot of, he was tournament soccer tour. Him and Jamie Armitage were playing.
Got it. Okay.
And then some things happened in the mid '70s, and he redirected his focus on training through the mid '70s. And then he's one of those guys, or was one of those guys, that was a genius. One of those people that you really don't think about, like, because he was all over the place mentally, and he had this, not mentally in the negative sense, but he had a broad spectrum of thought and ability, and he thought about things in different ways. And he's one of those guys that came up with stuff on the foosball table that eventually ended up leading to there being rules implemented to stop it from happening.
Right. Okay.
Like he had a dead race pull shot defense that he used and utilized that was really, really effective. And what he did was that he measured the dead bar depth of the men. And when he did the dead stop race, he wouldn't grab the handles; he'd grab the rods.
Oh,
so that he would, race, but he was holding the rods, so he knew it would hit the wall.
Right,
his hands would hit the wall, and that was there was
and the man couldn't go any further.
Right.
Yeah, I get you.
Anyways, that holding anything besides the rods became illegal in the rules. Anyways, that kind of stuff.
I didn't know that.
But yeah, beyond, and he did a bunch of other stuff. Anywho, so the point is he was the one that got me into like actually playing because, I've often thought of myself, I'm not really, I mean, I'm a second generation player in the sense that my parents played,
yes,
but I didn't start playing foosball in the foosball like tour tournament sense,
competitive sense,
until I was in my late teens.
Oh,
after having a decade or so of bad habits developed.
Okay.
So even then, I don't think I really, because none of the one of them, my dad or Jack, they were, Jack was a career goalie, and my dad, he was there to have fun and enjoy himself. So
right.
So the bottom line was that I wasn't, I didn't really learn until I was really in probably my early 20s that style of play. But anyways, Jack, yeah. So he was when I was born, he was basically my godfather, and he was living with us during that time frame in the late 90s for some job that he was doing. I was working on to change the world because he's one of those guys that does that kind of stuff.
He's that guy.
Yeah. He's that guy. So a closed loop waste management system. for the CAFOs, the concentrated animal farming operations that they have here in Chino and California.
Wow.
Like they would take the cow manure, turn it into reusable resources like methane, a soil amendment, and stuff like that, all using these bioreactors. But anyways, he was the what do they call that? The information. He was an information technologist.
Right.
At that point.
Okay.
But anyways, yeah. So he was the one that showed me initially how to train, like the deep level of training using Excel spreadsheets, which were pretty different at the time, and doing.
Wow.
And he was the one that showed me how to practice ball control with a metronome.
Oh.
And even though I haven't touched a table and practiced seriously in about 17 years, that amount of training that I did then, it's still kind of like come back every now and then. Like I can feel it, like the muscle memory.
Interesting. How cool is that? Wow. So this came from this method that he used to train you.
He trained a lot of people like that back in the 70s. So.
Wow. That is something else. It seems to me that maybe you could write the book about that particular era, and use your dad as a resource.
Yeah, no, he'd be a good resource. Yeah.
Your dad, of course, Jack, with what he did for you. I mean, that would be really cool.
And, and those two actually were inducted into the Pacific Northwest Hall of Legends in 2018.
Really? Okay.
Yeah,
the same year.
And that was. Yeah, it was awesome. Brad Lorene and a bunch of other people that are like in charge of that up there, and it was in Seattle. So I think one of my favorite foosball memories was getting to induct both Jack and my dad into that, because I got to I got to do like a little 2-minute introduction for each one.
How many people can say that in the business?
I think me.
That's extraordinary. That is amazing.
It was one of my, I've had it's been wall to wall fun this last year, Tom.
Sure.
Going to these tournaments inside Foos, but that was by far my greatest foosball memory was getting to induct my father and my godfather into the Hall of Legends up there.
That's a great memory. Thank you so much for sharing that, for sure. The other thing I wanted to ask you, when you're in the same room with your father and now your son, between the two of those people that you have a direct, bloodline to, what crosses your mind when you see them both together? What's the thought that typically goes through your mind?
I don't know. I don't really think about it.
Okay.
I don't. That's a really good question. I mean, I don't know, Tom. I mean, I'm an overthinker by trade, so you would think I would think about something, but I don't. Like, You know, it's funny. Like the first thing that I just thought about right now was that there's a picture that I have that's myself and my dad and his dad sitting at a table at some family thing years ago, probably in the 90s, right?
Okay.
And we're all just kind of looking forward. We're just sitting there. I mean, it was just one of those candid shots. Like, we weren't posing.
That moment.
And I've always looked at that, and I've always thought about it, and I've always just... I liked the concept of what was going on, but it was never like... There was nothing that just screamed like, you know, this is heritage or legacy or anything. This is three dudes sitting at a table, right? And I don't know. I wonder if it's the same thing, because I sometimes hear Avery say things that I know I say that I know my dad says.
Ah, there you go. That's what I was getting at. You know, is there something that you notice that maybe similar behaviors or traits that both your father and your son share?
Yeah, no, there is. Like there's a timing issue there, like a sense of timing. Like, you know, we Tom, you know, like on a, I guess, professional level, we've done a lot of work together, right?
Oh, yes.
And you know, I have a sense of timing of when to like say things or to like crack the punchline, right?
Your timing is impeccable, by the way.
Right. And I know. but I get that from my dad. And I also I think it's also tied in for my mom too, because she's very intuitive. But I see Avery do stuff like that.
Yeah,
you know, 5.5-year-old like having these moments where he just kind of knows when to say something that's funny, and you know, that's not the end all be all of life, obviously, Tom. Like we're not all here to be punchlines or make a punchline, but it's wild. It is wild when you see this little miniature version of you, I guess, or me, I guess, do something that you have seen all your life before that from your own parent.
Right.
I guess, you know, the bottom line is this: is like I just really want him to be happy.
Yes. Yeah.
I want him to just do whatever, and if it's not stuff doing with me, like I didn't have a kid because I wanted a best friend. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, I mean, one of the things that I've never raised kids, so I can't say this from experience, but several of my friends and my relatives have said to me, especially when they first were raising their children, they're worried about one basic thing. First of all, that their children are going to be nice people, you know, decent human beings, and that they would be able to be, if let's say you disappeared tomorrow, they'd be able to take care of themselves, you know, or ultimately, you know, survive well enough on their own. Self-sufficiency is something else we want to build into our children, you know. And Clay said the same thing during his chat about being a dad was, you know, he doesn't want to think about the darkness of not being there with his kids, but if let's say that were to happen, he wants to know that they're self-sufficient enough to look after themselves and enjoy a good life because of that.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I mean, I you know, and that's the thing. Like, I don't know. I struggle with that because I feel like I should be showing him how to cut wood and turn coal into freaking gold chips and shit.
Well,
and
you know,
like,
we all have our own way.
I know, but you know what though? There's a $500,000 insurance policy on my life. So to me,
well, there you go.
That's how I go to sleep at night, thinking like, all right. So I haven't shown him how to build a fire, but he's gonna, you know, he's gonna have at least a studio apartment.
Sure, he's covered. You know, he's good to go. No, it's just a fascinating thing, I think, because now let's confess. I mean, Dad's Day, Father's Day in America is really just another hallmark holiday, right?
Yeah,
it's an
all
excuse,
manufactured.
Yeah, it's an excuse to sell cards.
Yeah,
but at the same time, you know, dads oftentimes don't get a lot of cred, you know, for what it is they have to sacrifice and what they do to make sure the family unit is complete and continues and their kids are safe and happy and hopefully healthy.
Now, this whole foosball thing and inside Foos and hanging with you and Jim and Mark and Clay, that was a curveball that I wasn't expecting.
Okay.
Wherever it may lead, but you know, I always thought it was just going to be, you know, going back towards education,
right?
Which is fun. You know, I'm looking forward to that. But what a incredible journey it's been, man.
Well, we're mighty glad that you did this did happen, and that you are a dad, and that now you've got Avery, who just seems amazing. I mean, his photographs are just he should be a model, for God's sake.
He's a hoot and a half.
Yeah,
like he's really funny, and if he I'll tell you that. So the other day, we got, so this is the rule, like this is the thing we do whenever we come home. Take your shoes off, put them by the front door, because I'm Asian and I hate it when people don't take their shoes off and put them by the front door. I have a shoe rack and nobody does it, but whatever. Take your shoes off, put them at the front door, put your socks in the hamper, because he always takes his socks off, and go wash your hands. That's it. That's the 3 rules, right?
There.
So he comes home and he just like gets in the living room and throws the shoes and socks in the living room, and then goes and washes his hands. And then he comes back in the living room. And I'm like, I said, Avery, you have to go put the socks in the hamper and put your shoes away. And he flumps down on the floor. And he goes, but I don't want to do that, which is totally, I get it. You know, who the hell wants to do that? So I'm always willing to, like, you know, try to find some middle ground. And I said, well, okay, you can take a break, but, you know, you're going to have to do that. And he goes, but I've been doing that every day for the last 4 weeks. And I said, and he's sitting there like crying, like, you know, he's like, which I totally get. And I said, hey, Avery, I said, I got bad news for you, buddy. Like, you're going to be doing this the rest of your life, right? And he stops crying and he goes, and he looks at me, and I could see the existential funk just build on his face when he realizes that everything he's going to be doing for the rest of his life is going to be the same thing and variants of it for the next whoever knows how long. And he bursts into tears sobbing and runs into his room.
Oh, no.
And I got to tell you, that was sad, but also one of the funniest damn things.
Right.
I was like, hey, man. And then the best part was afterwards, I was like, hey, you know, Avery, like, here's the deal. Like, you have to do that. You're not happy about it, right? And I was like, if you don't do it, I'm going to have to do it. Now, and I still have to, I have to put my socks away still. And then I have to put your socks away. Do you know how, you know, crappy that is for me?
That sucks.
And yeah, right. And he's like, okay. You know, he begrudgingly got it.
I love it. This is the 5-year-old mind again, finding out new things. You know, exploring. You know, burning new pathways in their mind. You know, and always wondering what's around that next bend, and of course the curiosity is probably endless, and the energy, of course. If we could just bottle that would be nice.
Yeah.
Seriously. Sell it at foosball tournaments, you know.
Yeah. Well, that's meth, but legally, I don't know.
So, would you be happy if would it be great if Avery solved, let's say, the puzzle when it comes to curing cancer, or would you prefer that he was a playwright?
I want him to be happy.
Okay. Okay.
I want for him to live a life that was the opposite of the life that I lived up until I was about 38.
Got it.
30, you know what I mean? Like, I want him to be just happy. I want him to be happy in the skin that he's in and who he is, and to just follow whatever path he wants.
Awesome.
Like, if I do anything, if this my legacy is that the one person that I can impact the most does not have to deal with the things that impacted me the most. If that makes sense.
Absolute sense. And thank you so much for sharing this. This is great stuff. You know, it's FoosTalk Live, yes and no, but it's pre-recorded. We wanted to do this because we wanted to give Adam and Jim and Mark and Clay time with their kids because it's Father's Day. Mark Torres, welcome to FoosTalk Live. I know it's Father's Day and you've got lots of festivities going on today, but thanks for taking some time out to quote-unquote pre-record the appearance for this evening. So how's it going so far for Father's Day for you?
It's lovely. It really is. It's Father's Day, I don't know what it's supposed to be, but around my house, it's a day where I serve everybody else.
Oh, really?
Because... yeah, I made breakfast. So it starts off with my kids saying, Daddy, happy Father's Day. We love you. We have gifts for you. Can you make us breakfast? Okay. What do you want? I want pancakes, Dad. Your special recipe of pancakes. And I'm slaving in a hot kitchen, literally, making pancakes for my wife and kids. And it's like this whole thing, banana, vanilla, all this stuff. Okay?
I love it.
And then it's like, Daddy, for Father's Day, what do you want to do? but first, can you come outside and pick berries with us?
Ooh.
So now I'm outside in my Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle pajamas, holding a ladder for my kids as they're picking berries off of a tree, and I got to make sure that they don't get hurt.
Now
so,
that's a vision. That's a vision. Your Teenage Ninja Mutant Turtle pajamas.
I got several iterations. I got these. I got Marvel's Avengers.
Wow.
I have I got Cookie Monster.
Okay.
I got some stuff going on.
Wow.
Yeah. So
I'm impressed.
Father's Day so far is a day of servitude, and I'm fine with it. I love my wife and kids, and it's part of the deal. And
right.
So hopefully Mother's Day, it all flips around.
Mm-hmm. Of course. Of course. Not,
right. Not likely.
Yeah. Highly unlikely. So let's take it back now. Let's go back to those days when you were coming up in Foosball, especially in your old neighborhood. What was your relationship like with your own dad? What was going on? What did he think of you playing Foosball?
Well, so okay, let me think this through. Foosball was like this hobby childhood thing, right? Childhood, like 15 years old, right? So we're talking about teenager, really, not childhood, but they thought it was a gimmicky thing. They thought, so you're saving money to do what? And we're giving you some money to do what? And literally, the first big tournament I went to, I didn't even play in. It was in Santa Clara. It was a 20-minute drive from my house.
Okay.
So I went and watched my brother play in Fernando de Rosa, the master, the great Fooser, who he becomes great later, but he's a rookie back then.
Right.
And I watched Johnny Horton and Todd Lafredo win open doubles in Santa Clara.
Wow.
And then I played I played one more. It was the U.S. Open in San Bernardino. And then I was a rookie, and I took second in 2200 limited. But the very first big event was the 1990 amateur doubles. It was the 1990 Worlds in Dallas-Fort Worth. I went to that tournament. Here's why that's relevant. When I won that was my first big tournament.
Yeah.
I was playing for like a year, win amateur doubles in a massive field, and I come home, and my parents think I'm lying.
Really?
They think you didn't. Come on, seriously, you won a world championship? Really? You're going off to this thing, and you're playing foosball. And I guess I had no credibility. Maybe I was a pathological lying child or something, because they literally thought I was lying. It wasn't until my jacket arrived. My jacket came in the mail, and they're like, I guess it's pretty legit. I guess you're. So anyway, what did my dad think? My dad thought it was a gimmicky thing. My dad was always worried that things led to deviancy. Heaven forbid he ever really knew what was going on, but he was worried about like drugs and alcohol. Right. So he's like, what kind of thing is this? But they were supportive. I mean,
cool.
They kept me out of trouble. Foosball kept all of us out of trouble. Me, Fernando, Serge. We would all been in gangs and doing a lot of other stuff, and some of us would have been worse off. Some of us were bad anyway.
Right.
So the family was supportive, man. My dad was great about it. Yeah.
Now, as far as your heritage is concerned, obviously you're Filipino by heritage. What is the family unit like in your culture? I mean, it's is it any different from what typical people think of, like the Leave It to Beaver kind of thing?
So. Yeah. Well, first of all, you don't really have a point of reference until you go to other people's houses, right? Like I don't know what I don't have my worldview, my filter is my house, and so the egocentric thing to do is assume everybody's house is like yours, not that you're culturally differentiated. And then you go to other people's homes, and so there's six of us. I'm the youngest, and I grew up in a loud, very engaged, demonstrative. We got our kicks out of making fun of each other. We had fun at each other's expense. We laughed at each other's failures. Right? It was part of the culture. Was kind of like not in a crude way, but like kind of mean spirited in a fun, loving sibling way. Because we're a big family.
Yeah.
And then we're probably the biggest family on the block. I mean, I had a lot of ethnic friends, but not a ton of Filipino Guamanian friends. So like the African American families that I was friends with might have 3 kids,
right? And
everyone was very respectful to each other, at least openly.
Yeah.
And so, and I think it was the most exposing and revealing later in life. So the pandemic happens, and we have Zoom calls. And so I get on a Zoom call. My wife, Meg, she's from a nuclear 3-kid. Parents have been together since they were 15 years old.
Right.
They've been together forever. They're still in love, however that works. And we get on one of their Zoom family calls, and there's like 15 people patiently waiting while each person speaks.
Oh, no
so
kidding.
They took turns speaking, and very kind and very sweet. And then she got on a Zoom call. My family is 60 people.
Oh my God, 60
yelling over each other, cursing at each other, making fun of each other. No one cares. You have to talk over each other. You have to fight for every word, every space. Different, man.
Yeah,
different.
Mark, I have to say, knowing you, this explains a lot.
It's hilarious.
This really sums things up much better. And so now let's go to present day. You are a dad. When you had your twin girls, how did life change? What happened?
There's so many cliche things that there was a long time. I got married when I was 38. I had kids when I was 40.
Really?
Yeah, up to that point. I think there were absolute periods of time where I had resigned that I was never going to be a father. I just thought it's never going to work for me. I couldn't, there's nothing original about my story.
Yeah.
I had commitment issues. I couldn't settle down. I couldn't focus. I couldn't be in a long-standing relationship. And I had plenty of friends around me who had already conceded that they were never going to be married.
Sure.
And they were never going to be dads for sure, or they were going to be reluctant dads and never be married. So I was moving into that geography. I was like, okay, here we go. I'm like 37. I'm like chronically depressed.
Clock's
dating
ticking.
like 3 different women who I don't like, so this is not going to work. And so I meet my wife, and then everything comes back into focus. It's like, okay, I'm in love. I'm committed. And then having kids it's all about having kids. And so
yes,
you don't, the biggest thing about me that I didn't anticipate becoming a father was the actual evolution. So, parentage, you have evolution. Evolution gives you certain responses. You actually change. Your body changes. Your mind changes. And I don't know, I might add an extra dimension. I think it changes a little bit different if you have girls.
Yes.
And so, God has a sense of humor because he gave me 2 girls, and it fundamentally changed my DNA. I mean that literally and figuratively. It changed my DNA in ways that I didn't ever expect. And so let me qualify this. Not everyone can be a parent, and not everyone should be a parent.
Sure.
I mean, but for those of us that want to and can be, probably should be. Because if you can, there's something about genetic predisposition to serve and protect your children.
Right.
And it changes you, and it changed me in unbelievable ways. And I love being a parent and a father to my daughters more than anything. I mean, you probably get a feel from me and start to understand things about me intuitively. I really don't care about a lot of things. A lot of things for me are kind of this like superficial, fleeting experiences that'll be here, gone tomorrow. And it's like, okay, what really matters? A few things, like I do a lot of things mediocre. I'm like a subpar chess player. I'm like a really average basketball player. I do all these things really average. And then it's kind of like, where do I focus my time and attention? Those are my things that are my craft. And so I focus professionally. It matters to me because it's my livelihood. And then being a father matters to me. Those are like the really things that matter to me. And so I take those things seriously. I focus, I commit to them, and I try to move and be really good at those couple of things. And I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, no, that's excellent. That's precisely what I was looking for. I'm wondering now, of course, your daughters are coming of that age where they're much more aware of what's going on around them. Are they aware of your crazy passion for this idea of foosball? I mean, are they aware of that at all?
They are. They actually are. They are, but it's uniquely different. For example, they don't know me. Like I have a foosball table, I never touch it. I literally never touch it.
Wow.
So they don't know me as a passionate enthusiast for the competitive endeavor in foosball. They don't know me that way. They see me on Inside Foos videos.
Mm-hmm.
They've seen some of that stuff. They see me editing videos and putting together advertising things. They know that I go on business trips over the weekend for Foosball. So they know me as a business person and an entrepreneur, if you will. That's probably a strong word.
Okay.
They know me as a business. They know me as managing a business and trying to be an innovator on the business side of Foosball, and that's enough for me. For them to know that their daddy is working on stuff and investing in stuff and trying to improve something that's a business. But the other pieces of it, I don't think they really. Oh, they did. Yes, I'll just say this: my kids know that I'm the 1990 amateur doubles world champion.
Of course they do.
That's a running joke for everyone, including my kids. I never talk about my 2005 Pro Doubles Hall of Fame championship. I never talk about my expert novice. I only talk about that. But they think because of that, I could beat anyone in the world if I just practiced for like a day. And I'm fine with that. There's nowhere near the truth, but I'm their daddy. So if you think I could beat Fred or Tony if I just worked at it, I love you for believing that and continue to believe that.
Yeah, right. Let them live that vicariously. So, okay, let's say your daughters tomorrow said, "Hey, Dad, we really want to play some foosball." What would you tell them, and what would you do?
Yeah, I'd support it, right? You can't, you just can't. Unless it's something that's a detriment, damaging, or not good for the health or spirit. If it's something that could feed the soul, which anything can be art, right? Art is bringing meaning to matter. And for some exemplary athletes, foosball is an art. You look at somebody, Tony is an artist, right? They have a canvas and they're drawing a painting. I don't know what that vehicle is going to be for my daughters. And if they were to say, "Daddy, we really love the idea of playing foosball," then we're going to start training on fundamental stuff and learning things. We're going to watch Inside Foos video. We're going to find the fun part of it where you're just hacking around, and we'll turn it into a craft, not unlike we're doing with swimming. We do the same thing with swimming. Swimming is a very interesting thing, but the analogy is the same. If it's something you want to explore and do, there's going to have to be a certain. We can't. I don't want my kids just to dabble and spend money on dabbling. And I also don't want to be that hardcore, oppressive, autocratic, just sit here and rote practice. There's a blend in there somewhere. So we approach foosball the same way that we did with swimming and we do with soccer or lacrosse. They're in lacrosse and singing. But yeah, we'd get into it, man. That's what we do. We get into it.
No,
they haven't yet.
Have your daughters also adopted your affection for karaoke? Do they like that as well?
They actually have done me. So I'm not a trained singer. I sang in middle school. I sang in choir. It was a joke, right? It was like middle school. It's like learning how to play the recorder.
Yep.
If you've ever if you learn how to play the recorder, I just recently saw this meme too. Thank God I learned how to play the recorder because I just have needed my recorder to play Three Blind Mice so many times. I'm not a trained singer. My daughters actually are getting training as singers, and they're good.
Really?
And they're confident. And karaoke may or may not be their thing. People don't get about the karaoke thing is that's me once again embracing mediocrity. For me, karaoke is about being in love with your mediocrity and not being afraid to just put that mediocrity on full display publicly.
I love
it. I have had no problem repeatedly getting up on stage and singing badly because it's part of the joy, So they love singing is the answer to the question. Karaoke, we'll see. I don't think they've done much karaoke.
I think I can see it like a new career path for you, perhaps becoming the editor-in-chief of Underachiever magazine, something like that, right?
Yeah, man. Look, that's no joke. And I have one more thing about that. I read somewhere, I got to remember who it was, and I hope someone hears this and knows where it comes from. Someone said something else life-changing. And the life-changing thing, the guidance was, look, you don't have to... Oh, here it was. The guy said, I do a lot of things, and I don't do... and the one guy said, you must be really good at all that stuff. He goes, no, I'm horrible. I'm horrible. I play the violin. It's horrible. I do all these things horrible. Not unlike what I said earlier. But the idea was, I think the journey is more important than being great at everything I do. This is like the anti-perfectionist.
Yes.
Why be perfect at everything? Just have fun in the adventure. Who cares? He's a bad painter. He was a bad violinist. He was bad, but bad. I mean, he had fun doing it. So is it really bad? Yeah. Literature magazine. That's a thing, Tom. Ready?
Yes.
Let's do it.
Okay, I think it's ready to go. I mean, let's go to press. Absolutely.
Let's do it.
So, in all seriousness, when it comes to raising your two daughters, let's forward fast a bit into the future. What do you hope for them as people? What would make you happiest to know about your daughter's future?
Yeah, I'll tell you what. There's few things more anxiety and stress driven than dealing with that daily question.
Yeah,
that's a daily question for a parent. It's what do I want for my children? Because everything becomes about them. That goes back to this whole genetic predisposition. It's some embedded wiring that you want what's best for your children. And I've been fortunate enough to see all types of varying types of how parents try to respond to this. And some of it is going to be true anywhere. I want my children to be happy. I want them to have a gratifying life. I think if I had to sum it up, I want them to have a work-life balance.
Yes.
There's this instinctive thing where you say, I don't want my children to struggle. But the problem with that is that when there's no struggle, there's no character building.
Right. And no growth.
Right. I mean, you see, it's the same reason why we're getting into a deep conversation. So I want to simplify it. If you see like second generation wealth, they're typically in a bad spot unless they have guidance and support. And you look at the children of celebrities, especially, who grew up with wealth and visibility and didn't know anything but the servitude of others because everyone caretook for them or put them on a pedestal, and they never had to work for anything. These kids, man, right? They crash and burn, right? They crash and burn hard.
Serious issues.
Yeah. And so my children are growing up in a different world than I grew up in regard to, when I grew up, we had problems keeping the lights on. We had problems keeping electricity on. And we budgeted month to month and lived check to check. My kids have a much more comfortable existence. So the answer to the question is what I want for them. I want them to have enough struggle so the character is built. And I want them to have enough work so that the work is befitting of a work-life balance. So the work, whatever work they do, I want it to be intrinsically rewarding. I want it to be gratifying, and I want it to provide enough. And enough is not in excess so that it's toxic, but enough so they can caretake for themselves and their families if they should choose that. I want balance.
Yeah,
is what I want for them. And I don't want anything more. And I want for them, and I practice what I preach. I want for them what I want for myself, and I'm not a person of excess. I don't need anything more. I don't need any more additional anything. I just need enough.
Right.
And I hope that my kids, are wired that way too.
And of course, learning to love what they do.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Whatever that is. I love who they are. I love whatever they become.
Yeah. Well, that's it's so interesting because we, as you and I have talked about before, I come from kind of like that Leave It to Beaver generation of the 1960s. And it was enough for the nuclear family to give the appearance, at least, of happiness and home. And not to say it wasn't unhappy, or that it was happy. It's more about the image of what it was. And no family that I know of in my entire existence has ever been completely like that, what we were told to believe about the nuclear family. And so now I think there's a much healthier thing for parents who are raising children to say, you know what? They don't have to be perfect. They don't have to live up to our expectations, but have their own expectations about life and love what they do and be good people.
I think that's 100% right on, Tom. I think to your point, there's a question if that was ever true, if that nuclear family as it was presented to all of us, because I love Leave It to Beaver, by the way.
Right.
There's a question if it ever represented any reality. And I'll tell you one other thing. There are two husband and wife combinations that I know that are deeply, intensely in love and have been together for decades, which is miraculous. And one of the reasons why I think is because they didn't have wealth. Right. They had to struggle, and they had to work together to keep they put their kids through high school and college, working their tails off in the trenches. and all that character building and hardship brought them closer together. So I think there's something there to that.
Yeah, we have a generation, that post baby boom generation, that really benefited greatly from the wealth that was generated from World War II right through 1968, and we were pretty spoiled as kids, I have to say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and that was not necessarily to our benefit.
Well, no, agreed.
Yeah. So Mark, any other thoughts about being a dad and being in the world of foosball? What do you think of as the best combinations of dads and players out there?
Wow. I look at those things as fundamentally different. I don't know. Some of the best foosers out there didn't have a dad,
right?
Or had a displaced dad. I mean, they had dads, but the dads and I won't name names, but some of the top players of all time had very little or bad connection to their fathers. So, but if you just want to look at what embodies great fatherhood and stewardship of that fatherhood in the environment of foosball, I'm sure it's been said already. Look at what Terry Rue has done.
Yes.
Terry Rue's daughters are incredibly healthy of mind and spirit and body, and great ambassadors for the sport in their own right, and incredible competitors.
Yes.
And so Terry has checked all boxes when it comes to being a father and being in this environment and supporting. And I don't believe for a second he ever pushed foosball on Sully.
Yes.
I don't think for 1 second he said so. Not for 1 second. I think Sully loves her dad, and Sully saw her dad being competitive and fell in love with the sport. And Sully, out of love for the sport surely on her own, and probably in there her love for her father, somehow it got in her DNA to be great at foosball. And
yes.
So that's my answer. Is that I think that goes back to something I said earlier about balance. I think Terry provided incredible balance in all manners that you could, and he's got the offspring that are manifesting that.
Yeah, it's wonderful to watch, and of course it's encouraging for the future of the sport in general to have these second generation players. Sam Dijon and his dad Nino, another example, of course. I know from personal experience that there's a lot of intensity there, and Sam has expectations of himself, but also his dad, has helped in that regard. So these are the kinds of things in foosball and any other aspect of life that sometimes fathers can be a great influence and sometimes not there at all.
I didn't even think about Sam, and now that you're bringing up Sam and Nino, one of the most warming moments I ever experienced at a foosball tournament was when Sam won pro singles. Was it pro singles or pro doubles at Colorado?
Right, pro doubles, I believe.
He won pro doubles, and his dad cried, and I thought his dad was so proud, and I thought right there in that moment, what is it like? Because I never had that moment with my parents supporting me like that in that kind of environment. And I think when you have that much love and attention and support and advocacy, from your parent in those moments, I really feel like as a child, you feel like you could do anything, like you're invincible.
Yeah.
So that was amazing.
And he's at that stage now, of course, where it could go either way, because he's a big baseball fan, loves to play, loves to pitch, but he's still passionate about the sport of foosball. So, we always worry about which way are these younger players going to go when they get to that age, right? When they start to say, well, I'm an independent person, and then I kind of like this instead of this. You just hope for the best. And, with these new players coming up, that's their parents, of course, there's lots of them out there supporting their kids, which is great to see.
History is a guide for this. And I will tell you that there will be some percentage that rightfully so drop off and come back late. So it stays in the DNA forever. They will never, ever fully go away. As a matter of fact, no matter what age, for the decades that come, they will play a tournament probably once a year, with rare exception.
Right.
But we will lose some, and some will stick around more than others, but they'll always be there for us to reminisce on for sure, but also to check out every once in a while, playing a pro-am or something in their later stage. They'll always be around.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, got to say, Mark, I know that Father's Day is waiting for you. You've got to get back to your celebrating of this great day. I know in so many ways you could say that Father's Day is, yes, just another Hallmark holiday, an excuse to get cards and gifts, but it's significant. I think it's something that dads need to be recognized for what it is they do to sacrifice, and you are one of those great examples, by the way.
I appreciate that, Tom. Thank you.
Sure.
It's not just Facebook posts. It's real.
They're actually, you didn't rent those kids? Is that what you're saying?
The cardboard cutouts. The mini-me cardboard cutouts. So.
Well, looking forward to the future and, happy Father's Day.
All right, Tom. Thank you so much.
It's Father's Day weekend, and we're with Clay Tumey from Dallas, Texas, who, as you know already, is a big part of FoosTalk Live. He's a resident statistician and tech guru, and we wouldn't be able to do what we do without Clay Tumey. Clay, welcome to FoosTalk Live.
You're very kind. That's quite an introduction. Thank you.
Yeah, man, I love doing that to you. But hey, the reason we're getting together, and this is pre-recorded, by the way, we want to talk about Father's Day.
Okay.
Father's Day, foosball, dads and sons and this kind of stuff. So you're a dad, right?
I am.
And how many kids do you have?
I have 2 that I'm aware of that I raise.
That you're aware of.
Yeah. I don't know why I said that. There's no doubt. Like I don't have more just like randomly roaming out there in the world, but I don't know. I heard somebody say that one time and I thought it was funny. And so I thought I'd test drive it. And I think I'm not going to keep that one. We might not.
It is actually funny though. It is like that I'm aware of.
Yeah. What's the technically, correct answer? But yeah, I have 2 sons.
Cool. And what are their ages?
They are 15 years old and 10 years old. And their birthday is a week apart. They turn 16 and 11 in just a couple months.
Wow. Yeah. So let me guess. The 16-year-old has asked for the car keys?
He is actually riding bikes. He's already talking about how he thinks he can get by in the world without a car, with what do they call it? Like Uber. I forget the generic term for like ride sharing and stuff like that.
Right.
And, living close to where he works, when he gets older and stuff like that. So funny enough, I think he might not be a driver.
Really? That's, I still remember dreaming about driving, 14, 15 years old and thinking, wow, this is going to be amazing. Can't wait. And actually got a chance to drive my sister's car when dad wasn't looking.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, this is the best. I just want to do that again. And so when I got my, I turned 16, man, I was at the DMV like the next day. Just had to get, signed up and get my license, and I just couldn't wait. And I took driver's ed in school and all this other fun stuff. But man, I was way ahead of the curve. I just, I got to do that. But I think things have changed a bit.
Yeah, it's actually kind of bizarre to hear him because I try as hard as I can just in life, generally speaking, to not like encourage my way or discourage something that's not my way.
Sure.
Especially as a dad. And I think that's the play most of the time. So with I've never talked about driving to him. So I just figured when he had the itch, we'd scratch it together and figure out. And so he's actually the one who he was talking about that with his mom a couple weeks ago. And then he told me about it, and I was like, all right, well, cool. If that's how you roll, that's how you roll.
So I have to ask you the question, have you been a foosball player longer than you've been a dad, or a dad longer than you've been a foosball player?
It's a tricky answer, and I think the technically most accurate answer, at least, is that I played foosball before I was a dad, but I don't consider myself to have become a foosball player until about 8 years ago, I think, which is after both of my sons were born. So I grew up knowing what foosball was.
Sure.
And then like there were periods where I would be around a table and, whack the ball around. I didn't know anything about rules or passing. It was just like bar hack, spin the rod type stuff,
Sure.
And so technically I knew of foosball and I had played foosball previously, but I did not learn really about the sport of foosball, especially in the tournament style until after both of my sons were born.
Wow.
Yeah.
So really, the bug for foosball, the addiction that we know of, is well into your dadhood. Let's put it that way. So what do your kids think about you playing foosball?
My 10-year-old is and I'll say their names so I don't have to keep referring to them by their age. Yeah. Jet is my older son and Phoenix is my younger son.
Oh, cool.
Phoenix is all about like anything to do with like marbles and like, I don't know if you've seen what they call marble runs, but it's like tracks that, marbles like flow down and things like that. Elevators, escalators are fascinating for him. So for him, foosball is another chance to see like balls in motion. And then like if I open my table up, and you can see the ball return and the rack and all. I have a T3000, coin op table. So, to see all the mechanisms inside of that, he's pretty fascinated with it. At Texas State every year, we're only about 30 minutes away from Texas State where the tournament is held.
Yes.
They get to go see that and all the tables in the room. And Phoenix is just fascinated with everything that goes on there. And, Texas State has already passed, it's a month or so ago. So it's this is not I'm still going to brag that is the only event where I'll take my kids. Like that is the family friendly event for me. And
Love
so they dig it. My 15-year-old Jet has never really shown a whole lot of interest. And typically how he's been as a kiddo with a dad who's fairly competitive, if I'm already good at something, he doesn't usually have a whole lot of interest in it. So whether it's video games or, baseball or, foosball or anything like that, he doesn't typically take interest in something that I'm already good at. And I don't push it on him. It's just like whatever. However, I will say this is funny timing to have this conversation because last night we actually played for the first time. So
really,
yeah. And I told him, I don't know, a few weeks ago, I was putting together the table, and I went several years without having a table. And in fact, it's actually more accurate to say that of the 8 years that I've played, I only had a table for like 3 months, and then I got rid of it because I practiced too much. So.
Practice too much.
Yeah, when I first started playing, I really wanted to win a table at Worlds, and I was a rookie, and I thought if I practice hard enough, I can win this table. I thought I'd be the best rookie there, and it was so I bought a table to practice, and then I was going to get rid of it right before Worlds because the plan was to go to Worlds and to win a table. So I got rid of my table.
Okay.
And then I went to Worlds and I got second. And you don't get a table for second. You get a table for first. So
you should though, right? I mean, for second place?
I don't know. I think I think I should have gotten one, but it's not because I don't think second place deserves one. But the guy who won rookie singles also won amateur singles, and he was from out of the country, so he's coming here he's a rookie, but he's actually more like an amateur or even an expert. So I have my own opinions about how that all works, and I don't think this is probably the time to share all those opinions. But so all that to say that I've gone 6 years now without a table, and then a good friend of mine who used to play foosball, named Dustin Gatliff, he lived here in the Dallas area, and he was moving, and he stopped playing foosball a couple years ago, pre-COVID even, and he said, "Hey, I'm moving, and I'm not taking any of my foosball stuff. So if you want my table, it's yours." And I was like, "Okay, cool. What do you want for it?" And I figured he'd give me a pretty good deal because he's not the type to really desire profiting from his friends. And also he's just a good dude. So I was like, "Hey," and I know he didn't want to take his foosball table because he didn't want to play foosball anymore. I was like, "Yeah, sure. What do you want for it?" And he was like, "No, do you want it?" I was like, for zero, I can afford. Yeah, zero's cool. Like,
sure,
of course. And so he gave me his table.
Wow.
And so I finally put that together here recently, and so bringing it back to Jet, I told Jet a couple weeks ago, I was like, "Hey, if you can beat me in a game, I'll give you $100. He goes, "Oh, okay, cool, yeah." And that gave him a little bit of that lit the fire, so to speak. And he knows that I'm good. Like I'm not just some random dad who doesn't know how to do things. Like I'm good, so it's not going to be easy. And he knew it would be a while, but he was like, "Okay, yeah, let's do that." And I told him, I said, one like stipulation or one condition here is that you have to tell me before the game that that's what we're doing, because I'll goof around and just do whatever if there's nothing on the line. But if I'm playing for $100, I need to know that. So I told him, just let me know, and we can do it as many times as we can do it for hours a day, or we can do it one game a year. I don't care. Just if you ever beat me in a game, I'll give you $100.
Wow.
So last night he was out in the garage working out and doing his, he's into exercise and working out and doing all that stuff. And that's where the table is. So I went out there and I was going to hit a few balls around, and he was like, "Hey, I want to play a couple games." I was like, "All right, cool. So let's do it." So we played 3 games, and it was I didn't lose $100. I'll just say that. But it was the first time that he had an interest in playing the game and learning how to pass, learning how to shoot, doing all this stuff. So it was cool for me. That was a really nice moment that I'm glad I get to share with you and have it recorded so that I can remember that. Yeah.
No, it's you think about what dads and sons do. I mean, I was kind of like the Leave It to Beaver kid back in the 60s, right? And Dad took me to ball games, and that was our thing. Ball games and actually science fiction movies. We used to go together to those things. But every dad and son have something like that, where they kind of share a moment. Bonding, I guess, is that the term?
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people would say that. To me, I bond. Anything that I do, I think can be a bonding moment, whether it's just explaining how like gravity works, or teaching my kids how to make spaghetti, or I don't know.
Right.
Like you bond through all that stuff.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Life skills.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. Everybody's a little different that way, but just seeing all of a sudden this spark of interest because you enticed your son to to give it a try at least, So you think maybe Phoenix is going to be, getting out eventually to tour someday?
I think it's likely that he will travel with me, when he's older, and I mean, as soon as this year he might. I don't know. I'm not sure that he has the competitiveness to really care about winning and losing. He loves to play. Like he'll actually stand across the table from me and hold the rods, and we'll hit the ball around. But my 10-year-old Phoenix has autism, and he doesn't have language the way that a lot of us do. Is usually how I explain that. Like he understands a lot about a lot of things, but I don't know that he would ever understand the rules of foosball to the extent that he could even play at a competitive level. But he's proven me wrong at several points along these first 10 years of his. So
sure,
who knows? Maybe he will one day. And I really try hard, generally speaking, to not push like my desires onto my kids. So
right. Understood.
If something comes up that they want to do, then I'm down, but I don't want them to ever do something just because dad wants them to.
Yeah. Now, not to get too terribly into it, but I was wondering if you could take me back in time and give me an idea when you first learned you're going to be a dad. What first of all, what went through your mind, and second of all, how did that change your life once your first son was born?
Well, with my first son, life was pretty funky back then. That was in 2006, and for those who don't know, I'll tell you now, that was the year that I started robbing banks, and I was off the rockers, man. I was not in a good space. I was not healthy mentally or otherwise. I was just kind of out there, and a lot of that was related to my relationship with my wife. We're divorced now, but we were married then, and life was just like not fun for me, frankly.
Yeah.
And so to become a dad in that year was like the part before my son was born was all kind of like, I don't know. I was just depressed. Everything was bad, frankly.
Sure. Yeah.
When my son was born, that's when things changed. It was like, okay, I'm a dad now. And it wasn't like a conscious decision. It wasn't something that I just sat down and went, okay, I'm going to be responsible now. It was like something in my brain changed. And I'm sure that a neurologist or a psychiatrist or somebody who went to college for a long time, I'm sure they could explain what that is. I can't. But what I can say is that the day that my son was born, life was just different after that. And I stopped caring only about me. And then I started caring like about me and someone else, which is I had never lived. I was 27 years old when my son was born.
Wow.
My first 27 years were all about me. And it was very easy to be selfish. It was very easy to think, what do I want to do? What do I care about? Me, myself, I, all that stuff. And then, when you acquire the name dad, it all changes, man. And I still care about me. There is still a little me, myself, and I in there. So I'm not going to pretend that I'm just completely selfish. Selfish. There's a new word. I'm not gonna pretend that I'm completely selfless.
Right.
But my son added something to the mix that I didn't expect. So now at that point, I began caring about someone else, and it was different, man. I'd never experienced that before.
Yeah, profound difference. I know just about everybody I've had friendships with who became parents while I knew them or after I knew, whatever. When we get a chance to talk about that, they fully admit that, man, I had no idea what I was getting myself into.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, there's this creature that's depending upon my caring for them and, of course, sustaining their life. That's a huge change in responsibility that didn't exist before. So
yeah, and it's a trip because for my experience, I can't speak for anyone else, obviously, but the way that I experienced that, it wasn't even that there is this creature now that I have to care for, that I'm responsible for. It wasn't about here is this thing or here is this baby that is apart from me. It was more like here is an extension of my life, and it's actually something that contains my literal DNA. So it's almost like looking at your hand and saying, this is a part of life that matters to me, to the extent of if I cut it off, I will not be able to live life the same. So that's how I view parenthood is with my kids, is they're not physically attached, but there is absolutely a connection there that I can't deny.
So what is it that you go through on a daily basis as the dad? Just describe for me what do you go through on your daily routine with your kids? What is there something that you can? I mean, even something mundane. Is there something that pleases you most about having the kids around?
Let's see. As far as, I don't know, it's hard. It's hard for me to notice the things in the short term that make me happy, frankly, because we just go through life. We have lunch, we have dinner. We do this, do this, don't do that, things like that. Very like normal. It's any other kind of relationship is, has those things too. And so it's hard to notice, like in the moment, the things, oh, this makes me happy, or this is what gives me joy in life. Right. But today, I can give you an example from today. We're talking on a Saturday, and today is a pretty laid back day for me. So I woke up and I was texting with a buddy of mine who we were talking about foosball. And I was watching a video, and so I'm just having a lazy day in bed watching foosball on the screen, and then Phoenix comes in and he's like, "Hey, what are you doing?" And in his own words, is like, he's curious what's going on, and I was like, "Oh, I'm just watching foosball." And I asked him if he wanted to watch it, and he said, "No, thanks." And then he gave me a hug and he said, "I'm glad you're here." And then he left. And so, like, to me, that's the thing that's better than those little moments like that are better than any kind of big grand, event that happens or anything like that. So,
right. Yeah. So like learning to drive a car or something, right?
Yeah. Those kinds of things to me, like teaching, I teach Jet how to cook different types of meals, and I enjoy that. But I don't have like this. It's not like, oh, wow, it's great being a dad. I don't have those experiences in that way. But when Phoenix tells me, "Hey, I'm glad you're here," or like last night when Jet was like, "Hey, let's play. I want to try to beat you for $100." Like that is the coolest thing in the world to me, because I enjoy that. And even though it's a competition and all that stuff and blah blah blah, all that crap.
Sure.
I love that my kid is choosing to engage with me, and it just means the world to me.
It's often curious. I mean, I'm sure there's studies about this, but when we have progeny, we have our offspring, the genetics that get passed on from our parents to us to our kids. Why do kids have certain proclivities? Why does one child prefer to not play sports, let's say, but is really into science? Or let's say another child really loves to read, but really could give a darn about, playing foosball or something. What is that? And what does it come from both sides of the family? Is it just where is that I guess you could say that chemistry experiment? How does that all happen?
Well, it's all theory for me, because I've never studied, actually sat down and learned from people who know the answers to those questions. So my theory is that it's a mix of everything. Obviously, there's a little bit of nurture, there's a little bit of nature. So there are things with me, for example, as a child that I wanted to do, like music, for example. I'm a musician. I love the way things sound, and I like to create things that sound a certain way. And so as a child and as an early adult, it was music. And here in this part of my life, it's more about conversation and talking, but it's still something that we create and that sounds a certain way. And, you've experienced some of that just in doing some of the podcasts that we've done together. Like, I like things being a certain way. So some of that is just me. I like that. I like the way it sounds. I like the way that it feels to do it. And then other parts of that is, as a child, you seek certain things from your parents. So you want a hug, or you want praise, or you want positive attention, or in some cases you want negative attention because it's better than no attention.
Yeah.
And so if to take a small example, let's say that I don't really like to play foosball, but I know that my dad will be happy if I play foosball. Well, I don't care about foosball, but I do care that my dad gives me happy energy back. And so I might play foosball as a means of getting positive attention from my dad. So it's not really about the foosball. It's about how to get that attention from my dad. And then along the way, maybe I like foosball because I learned I'm pretty good at it. And now it's not about my dad. It's about, I love competition. So had my dad never been a foosball player in that moment, I would have never started playing. So in my later life, I would never be a foosball player. So yeah, there is some of that. I don't know if any of that makes any sense, but
no, it makes total sense. And what is it that you guys are up to today on Father's Day? What's going on?
Well, I don't even know. My so Jet went and played a little basketball earlier. So he rode his bike. It's my bike, but he's been riding it a lot, lately, talking about the car stuff. So he's really been into exercise, which is super cool, and I encourage it.
Yeah.
He went and played basketball, and he came back, and he it's always anytime he wants to like make lunch for him and his brother. I pay him $5. So anything that he does, I don't pay him for making his own, but if he wants to cook lunch for basically whoever's in the house, then he gets paid. Yeah. He gets paid for that. Same with dinner. And it's only $5. It's not getting rich off it, but it plants that seed of doing this and then earning money and then making the connection. It's just a tiny little step towards adulthood. So
there is something to be said for teaching kids life skills.
Yeah.
Think about, how little schools pay attention to life skills, like how do you make lunch, or how do you cook for another person, or how do you fill out your damn checkbook, or balance, how do you not spend too much on a credit card? Yeah. These are all things we wished we'd heard from somebody somewhere along the way.
And that's the reason that my kid knows all that, by the way. You can ask him, what does it mean when you get paid? Where does your money go? He has an Excel spreadsheet that has a master tab, and then it has give, save, and spend. And those are each tabs where he takes 10% of everything that he earns, and he puts that in his give, what we call his give envelope, even though it's not an envelope.
Okay.
And it's not a religious thing. It's not anything. It's just every dollar you earn, 10 cents goes to serve somebody in need.
Cool.
And he decides where that goes, and he's got a few $100 saved up, just waiting to be given away.
Kidding.
And then he's got his save, which is 20% of everything he earns.
Okay.
And that goes to anything he wants to save up for. If he wants a new pair of AirPods or tennis shoes or a basketball or you want it, you buy it. Save up your money. And then he also has his monthly bills, his phone, his Spotify, all this stuff, Xbox Live Gold or something. So
he's got to pay that stuff himself, huh?
If you want it, you buy it. I don't need a phone for you. I don't need my kid to have a cell phone. And I'm not doing the old grumpy thing of when I was a kid, blah, 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 blah. I don't care about all that. So if that don't put me in that category, but I don't need my son to have a phone. I just don't. He's 15. I know where he is. I don't need to text you. I can just walk to the other room. So if you want a phone, it's $40 a month. You can pay for it. And,
there you go.
And I started telling him that when he was probably 9 or 10. And when I thought not only did he not need a phone, but I thought he shouldn't even have one. So at that point I said, when you can pay for it, you can have one. And it took a couple years, and he was, I don't know, probably 12 years old, maybe 13. I think he was 12 when he started, having the money every month to pay.
That's a great lesson. I think other parents could probably say, I want to do the same, but it's too late because they've already got one.
Yeah, that's just bullcrap. That's weak parenting. If you think I can't, if you're talking about the things that you can do with your kids and you start with I can't, then you're already behind, because you can. And nobody, now I will say this, if you're divorced and you have a co-parenting situation with an ex-spouse, things get a little tricky. So I could tell him, when you have a phone, you can pay for it. And then his mom might just give him one. But the thing is, that's also part of life. As an adult, somebody might say you can't do this, and then somebody else comes along and makes it happen for free. So that's all real life stuff, and I don't mind it. It's fine.
Yeah, but it's important to their development, of course, and to being a responsible parent.
Yeah.
Drawing boundaries, and of course, making sure that they're going to be safe and healthy. What is it that you want most for your kids? I mean, out of anything that you can think of, what is it? What's most important for your kids?
Oof, it's a dark answer, but it's the truth. I want them to be able to live without me, and if I die tomorrow, I don't want their life to fall apart.
Right,
and so that means teaching them now the things that they're capable of doing now, and working on the future. So like my kid with his money and having the give, save, spend tabs and having an emergency fund. Like I didn't finish talking about what his spreadsheet was. Like he has an actual emergency fund. So when he broke his iPhone screen last month, it's cost $100 to fix it. Guess what, buddy? I didn't break it. I'm not paying for it. And I'm sorry that your phone is broken, but I'm not fixing it. And he had an emergency fund. So we took it to the store and got it fixed right away for $100. 15-year-old kid had $100 to just put towards an emergency. So for me, it's important for my kid to be able to survive without me. And even more so with my 10-year-old Phoenix, because with autism, the future is a one giant question mark. And, or as a lot of people in the community would say, it's one large puzzle piece. Like I don't know how he's going to fit into this world. So
sure,
the longer I'm around, the more doable life is for him. And one day, that's most likely not going to be the case. I'm not going to be here. So for me, I'm 42. My kids are still young. I believe that I'll be here until they're adults. And then even at that point, I want them to be self-sufficient, but at least I'll be here, hopefully, if they need something. But ideally, the plan is for them to not need me in life. And that's the way it is with anything. Like if you learn how to live in life without the people who raised you. And that to me is a successful upbringing. So it's sad to think about. It's devastating to think like if I die in a plane crash, and trust me, I think about this all the time. If I die, it's going to be sad. And, the people who are still here,
difficult.
It's going to suck. But my son already knows some basic things about adult life. My 15-year-old Jet, he already knows some basic things about life that I've taught him. Yes. And there are certain things that he will be able to do as an adult for his whole life, because that's what we talked about when he was at this age. And I hope I'm around to talk about some bigger stuff and all that. But, the idea is one day you're on your own, you're self-sufficient. And then you come to me to visit instead of come to me to solve your problems. So,
wow. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, that idea of raising kids, first of all, I think the number one thing is that they're nice people.
Yeah.
But raising kids to be self-sufficient and also productive, as members of a society, let's say. But at the same time, doing this in a way that's fulfilling for them, in a way that's meaningful. That's that's pretty heavy duty stuff here.
Yeah, but that's my life, heavy duty.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, I love it.
And this year we're going to go see a movie on Father's Day night. We're going to go see the new Lightyear movie, the Pixar.
Right.
Yeah, we're going to go see that. And we're into Pixar. We love those movies. So it just came out last night. We're going to go see it for Father's Day. It's the night showing, whatever time the night films are. We're going to go see that tomorrow night for Father's Day. Yep. And that actually is probably the first Father's Day that I've been home with my kids in years. I mean, we're not going to be home because we're going to go to the movies. Yeah, I really don't care about like Hallmark holidays at all. So their grandfather on their mom's side, he, it's a chance for them to go see him and spend Father's Day with their grandfather, and for their mom to see her dad on Father's Day. So it's important to a lot of people, and I respect that, and then I also support that. So go see him, and then we'll do. We'll do whatever we do when we do it. So
that's the movie thing.
Yeah. Do that tomorrow.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Well, that's why we were pre-recording this episode of FoosTalk Live. And of course, Clay Tumey of Dallas, Texas has been giving us his unique perspective on being a dad who also plays foosball and plays foosball mighty well. Might I add. But looking forward to our next live episode of FoosTalk Live. And of course, Clay, are you planning any trips out of the country anytime soon?
I am, but it won't interfere with the next live episode of FoosTalk Live.
Cool. And we're getting a lot of good feedback now with our Twitch TV channel, which we're not on this week, but we will be on hopefully next week.
Yeah. How do you feel about that?
I think that's an awesome thing, and it's a whole new dimension that now I've got to actually shower and get dressed for the show now, which I never did before. So,
speaking of animation, you could actually do what they call them VTubers. It's virtual, like an animated thing that you can, instead of your face being on the screen, it could be like a character that it talks and its mouth moves when you talk. Like that's a thing too.
Yes, I've seen that.
You can totally do that.
That's wild. Well, maybe we'll just have to do that some week, just to throw a curveball. I don't want to give too much away. Yeah. We want it to be a surprise.
Sure, yeah, of course.
But wow. So, any parting thoughts about being a dad and playing foosball?
Yeah, let your kids be who they are, and if they like foosball, then that's awesome. Support that, and if they don't, hey, you know what? It's all good. And kids will be who they are, and supporting who they want to be and letting them fill it out. Will serve them a lot better than trying to force them into the mold that we create. So I just want to encourage any dads out there, and moms if they're listening, of course, but we're talking fathers, so it's Father's Day, but any dads out there, hey, let your kids be who they are and support that.
FoosTalk Live proudly presents a weekly update of events near you with the FoosTalk Live Tournament Beat. Here's what's up. It's the 2022 National Foosball Championship North American Cup, June 22nd through June 26th at the Clarion Hotel and Conference Center, Lexington, Kentucky. Coming right up, the 2022 ITSF World Cup and World Championships, June 28th through July 2nd, Nantes, France. Don't miss the next 518 Foosball Smashdown, Saturday, July 9th, Trick Shot Billiards and Wicked Eatery, Route 9, Clifton Park, New York. The South Florida Foosball Club proudly presents the 2022 Beachtown Beatdown, July 15th through 17th. Lilo's Street Food and Bar, Lake Worth Beach, Florida. Two Gun Promotions presents the 2022 $10,000 No Pro Nationals, July 15th through 17th at Magoo's 5002 South Memorial, Tulsa, Oklahoma. Don't miss the $12,000 Mississippi State Foosball Championships, August 5th through 7th. Holiday in Pearl, 110 Bass Pro Drive, Pearl, Mississippi. It's the first annual Ozark Open, Sunday, August 15th, 2588 North Gregg Street, Fayetteville, Arkansas. Here comes the 2022 $100,000 Tornado Championships of Professional Foosball, August 31st through September 5th, the Clarion Hotel, 1950 Newtown Pike, Lexington, Kentucky. It's the 2022 $10,000 Michigan State Foosball Championship, sponsored by Foos Gadgets, September 30th through October 2nd at the Hilton Garden Inn, Lansing West, Lansing, Michigan. The South Florida Foosball Club proudly presents Thunderdome 2, coming in October of 2022. Listen for more details. Each week, we do our best to give you the most up-to-date listing of foosball tournaments near you. If you have an event you would like to add, send us all the details at info@foosballradio.com. Tune in every week for the FoosTalk Live Foosball Beat. FoosTalk Live is a product of Inside Foos, all rights reserved. Brought to you in part by InsideFoos.com, Protectoflex, Rodlock, 518 Prince, Foosballers the Movie, the USTSO, and Foosball Clubs USA. Tune in again next week for another episode of FoosTalk Live. In the meantime,
we'll see you foozin'.